earliest use of the left-right paradigm was during the French Revolution, where the people who supported the revolution was on the left. Then you had a large amount of people who was part of the rural community. Most of France was farmers, peasants back then. A large amount of those people, around 60% or so, supported the monarchy, because around 400 years ago, there wasn't any separation between state and the church, where you had the church that was closely tied to the French monarchy and royal family. So there were many peasants who believed that the ruling class of France was literally chosen by God. Like the French king was chosen by God. Now you look at MAGA and Trump, you see a lot of MAGA people who openly admit at Trump rallies that they view Donald Trump as someone who was elected and someone who was chosen by God. So you understand, when you study history, you see a lot of these parallels. The Democratic Party is hemorrhaging support, and they are failing to register voters. And now there's this massive panic. They're struggling to raise money. And this is why I think this is a great time for the RBN community. The same with RBN with Worker Strike Back, the same with RBN with ACP and Midwestern Marx, to really brainstorm a way to organize this discontent we're seeing with the American workers to a real movement. So I want to give you guys take. We can start with Eddie, because he was the first one to chime in. We go Eddie, and then we go around to Noah, Carlos. What's your guys' thoughts on the state of left? How can we utilize this anti-Zionist movement, this new acknowledgement that Israel is our enemy and that the Democratic Party is now friends? What is the vision that you guys have at ACP? I'll start with Eddie first.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing right now is a divide both on the left and right that is a generational divide, among other things. And it's kind of splitting the left and right over the issue of Israel. On the left, more and more people are seeing that the Democratic Party is just a Zionist party through and through. That's what they've always been. They're captured by the Zionist lobby and by Zionism as an ideology, and they're realizing, like you said, the Democratic Party needs to be destroyed. It cannot be reformed. And then you're also seeing that on the right, which is very interesting, and probably a little bit more dangerous, with the rise of this like blatant white nationalist, like JQ ideology that I know like our friend Jake Shields flirts with. You and I both had a conversation with him. I think that's the future of the right, more so than the establishment conservatives. And it just shows the state of the times that we're in. People are struggling to pay for groceries while all of our money is being sent to these imperialist wars they want an end. Now, our job, I think, is to make sure that people go to the communist revolutionary side rather than the fascist fake revolutionary side. The socialism of fools is what they call it. Because ultimately what those guys are calling for is a race war, when it's in the interest of all Americans to fight a class war. So, Carlos can talk a little bit more about this through our education programs, but the main goal is to get people educated and get them into working class organizations where the working class can actually flex its muscle and start gaining some power in this country, and preparing for, maybe an eventual collapse of our state apparatus as a whole as it continues to lose legitimacy.
I think this is what the left needs to do, because you had a conversation with Jake Shields as well. And the weak, ineffective left are the people who are afraid to have these conversations, who avoid having these conversations. To me, there's nothing more ineffective when I see these white leftists, when they say, I will never talk to my racist family member. You're clearly not doing your job then. It's supposed to be your job, not my job. Your job is to have conversation with these folks. But I do anyway, because I think if you're a communist and you're a socialist and you're so worried about you can't talk to certain people because they're icky. Like how, are you really a socialist or communist? You were afraid to sell your ideas, and a lot of people thought I went on there because I was approval of Jake Shields' ideas, and I barely knew the guy's politics. He invited me on the show because he wanted to have a black radical on, and I could get it. Like, I guess this guy must be far right crazy. He is kind of far right, but I went on the show and I made an argument on why we should defund the police. I made an argument to him. Like, if you look at historically, and you made a great point, Eddie. And then we can go around the panel because we already started off pretty strong. They believe that they should organize based on race, that's the safest thing to do. But historically, that has been proven to be ineffective. Historically, when you look at the vast majority of human history, because people are tribal, we still have a lot of animalistic traits where we recognize the people who look like us are the most safest among us, which is why communists and socialists, we are the ones who want to advance society into the future. Like, fucking overcome your animalistic instincts, white supremacists, and like that's animalistic to only want to be around other people who look like you. That's what most humanity has done for a long time, and the ruling class took advantage of people because of that. They will take advantage of people's religion. They will separate people by religion, separate people by race, and the ruling class will take advantage of that. Do you guys agree? I don't want.
Yeah,
there's a lot of content already by Noah.
They drive me crazy, right? Because they have this whole like big like fake narrative that like Jews are somehow in all the halls of power, and if only we replace them with the nice white Christian guys, and everything's going to be crazy. This is stupid. Even if it were true that the ruling class are all Jewish, which it's not. I mean, we could go for days listing names like Ford and Morgan and Chase.
I hate when they do that because they try to erase the complicity that their ancestors in that white America have, because it's a team job, guys. Like, they are working together. So a lot of these people who are essentially white Zionists, they want exactly what they have in Israel. They whitewash the crimes of white America by blaming the Jews. It's so transparent to me. But sorry, Noah, please continue, man. You're spitting, man.
Exactly what they want. They're just white Christian or fake Christian Netanyahu's, right? They want Zionism, but for them, and it's. Even if they were correct about like who is in power and who isn't, it wouldn't matter, because changing who it is, all that does, or who's in charge, all that does is prolong this merry-go-round of a conflict. Only communists are saying, no, we need to destroy this entire system and build something new in its place, because it's the system that produces the people in charge, right? It always, always, always comes down to communism or fascism.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and as these establishment parties are fading from popularity and losing their legitimacy, which is only going to continue as the crises deepen, that's going to be the choice people are confronted with. And when you have like this old Zionist psyop propping up the white nationalists, it should be obvious which choice is the only reasonable one, right? Like, which choice actually contains real solutions to problems. And for a long time, I'll be real with you, Nick, like, that wasn't the left, right? The left of the previous decades failed. Absolutely. It failed us, and we need to admit that it failed us, rather than just like jerking off like all these old boomers that not only left us with nothing, but destroyed what they were given, and then left us with less than nothing. So we're here building from scratch, right? With crises not just on the way, but here. I mean, 78% of Americans are paycheck to paycheck right now. Yeah. What is it? 2% are organized just on the labor level. I mean, we need to get serious and get organized right effing now. And the reason there's a new left rising in America is because people are looking around and realizing that it's all falling on our shoulders. If we don't do it, nobody else is going to. I don't know.
Very well said, Noah. It annoys me. I said it many times recently that these white-haired leftists who fail to accomplish anything, they still wag their finger. Like, there's these academics, right, as well, who wag their finger even though they fail to accomplish anything. If I'm 60 years old, guys, 70 years old, and we don't have any sort of revolution, there's no victories tangible that I can point to that I gained for the working class, you know what I'm not going to do? I'm not going to jump in front of the next generation and pretend I know it all. That's the entirety of the old school DSA, Bernie Sanders, Cornel West style left. Failed to accomplish anything, but then when they see any sort of uprising movement, they have 1,000 criticisms. They always have to
They
explain
come
why
out of
it's
the woodwork to criticize you guys, to criticize us. And it's like, what standing do you have to criticize anybody? You built nothing. You accomplished nothing. Where are your victories? Do we have the largest protest demonstration in American history on their watch? Nothing changed. Well, we get a street named after George Floyd. So the fuck what? I'm sorry to swear. So what? I don't care. I don't give a shit about streets. Okay. I need real material change for the working class, for the proletariat. That's who we actually stand for and fight for. And if you're not in it to do that, get the fuck out of our way. I'm sorry I'm in such a fired up mood tonight, man, but sorry, I'm just heated.
Yeah, that's Donald Trump in a nutshell. Donald Trump is building nothing for the working class. Like China, they have all these amazing infrastructure projects that they have planned. They have all these programs that are uplifting people out of poverty. You want to know what Trump is focusing on? He tweeting about how he saved Christopher Columbus Day. He's tweeting about Cracker Barrel. That's the picture you get from the American president. As China is building, lifting people out of poverty, Donald Trump is tweeting about fucking Cracker Barrel. Look, Carlos, I know you want to chime in. I'll get you in here.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to go after Noah after he used so many elaborate examples and metaphors of what's being done to older generations. But I think when it comes to the right wing, one of the things that Marxism teaches us is that fetishism is something that happens objectively in capitalist society. It has a real material basis. The abstractions that it operates with are not just at the level of the mind, but they exist at the level of how we think as a reflection of the fact that they exist pervasively in all society. And what you get with the right wing is the archetype of that fetishistic thinking, because when you say, no, it's just Jews, you're looking at a specific entity and you're completely ignoring the relationships that entity is premised on. And that's what fetishism is looking at things and seeing in it inscribed qualities that are premised on the relations that are the conditions for the possibility of that thing, but that you're just saying, no, it's that thing. And what brings the power of these various individuals that they're trying to claim are in those positions and have those capabilities because they're Jews, what gives them that power is not the fact that they're Jews. What gives them that power is the fact that they're the personifications of capital, that they play a specific role in the ruling system. And if not them, someone else would play that role. And when it comes to the left, I struggle to even call it a left. I don't think we've had a left since perhaps the aftermath of the civil rights political revolution in this country. I think the last real left in America were the Black Panther Party. Because what's a left? To have a left is to have a sovereign political line that actually is able to express itself and have a certain degree of force, of sovereign authority that it puts into the existing political horizon. We have not had that since the Black Panthers, because everything else that has came after that has been tied at the hips to the Democrats. It's never exerted any power out of its own volition. It's never had any authority out of its own political positions as a left. So we have seriously had no left. What we have now and what we're trying to build with the ACP and with other comrades who are trying to do the same is to have institutions that could serve as the foundation to have something like a left in the future. But we haven't had a left in a very long time, because things like DSA or even the old now liquidated Communist Party, they have all been tied at the hip to the Democrats. When it comes down to what positions are you going to take on the most important political issues that are rising before you, it's always whatever the Democrats say, because they, in their eyes, are worse than the Republicans.
Yeah, their lesser to evil argument is inherently conservative, because they are making the argument that we shouldn't take a risk for revolutionary reforms out of a fear that the right wing may rise in response. So what is the historical use of what it means to be on the left and the right? I know a lot of people are like, Nick, why you always use these terms? Because I study history, and these terms actually have meaning. They actually have a historical meaning, and a lot of Americans have been dumbed down. Political discourse is so bullshit. People really think that there's not a real left-right divide. People are like, oh, that's just made up. No, it's real, guys. Let me tell you if you don't know. You guys know, at the earliest historical example that I know of, Now, I would say I know of, because if there's an earlier example of this, I will be stand corrected. But for my research, the earliest use of the left-right paradigm was during the French Revolution, where the people who supported the revolution was on the left. Then you had a large amount of people who was part of the rural community. Most of France was farmers, peasants back then, around 85 to 90%. A large amount of those people, around 60% or so, supported the monarchy, because around 400 years ago, there wasn't any separation between state and the church, where you had the church that was closely tied to the French monarchy and royal family. So there were many peasants who believed that the ruling class of France was literally chosen by God. Like the French king was chosen by God. Now you look at MAGA and Trump, you see a lot of MAGA people who openly admit at Trump rallies that they view Donald Trump as someone who was elected and someone who was chosen by God. So you understand, when you study history, you see a lot of these parallels. So who was people on the right back then? The people on the right was these peasants who was counter-revolutionary and supported the monarch. They supported upholding conservative values, upholding previous principles of the society. That is what it means to be on the right. The leftists was the revolutionaries. So guys, when I tell you guys that DSA is factually a right-wing organization, when I tell you guys that Bernie Sanders is a right-wing politician, people look at me like they're crazy because they don't know shit about history. Historically, when you look at the terms, Bernie Sanders is on the right because he is focused on upholding and conserving the principles of the United States instead of appealing and calling for a revolution. So what we are calling for as true leftists, looking at this system of capitalism, this system of Zionism, we are calling for a revolution of this system. We're not looking for just small reforms. We're not looking to conserve this system. We're looking for vast revolutionary change where it puts us on the left. And if you're a part of the Democratic Party in any apparatus at all, you are on the right. Now, I know this sounds obvious to us after me laying out like this, but people think I'm crazy. Like, people think we're crazy whenever I say, hey, man, you're on the right if you still support Bernie Sanders. You're not on the left if you support a pro-genocidal party. But Noah and Eddie, I see you muted. Do you guys want to chime in before I can move on to some receipts as well? Do you guys have anything else you want to add? I can continue ranting all day, but I will get you guys in here.
No, just real quick. The other historical event they should study is Germany during the rise of the Nazis, because that's where this term social fascist comes from, in Ernst Thälmann, because the Social Democrats of the time, the reformists, ended up siding with the Nazis. They gave away the location of Rosa Luxemburg and Karl Liebknecht to right-wing forces or right-wing elements of the German Freikorps. They tried to, fight fascism at the ballot box when the communists wanted like a popular front against it. And they were the ones who allowed the rise of fascism in Germany. It was the people like DSA, these soft reformists who ended up, being a stepping stone, essentially, or creating the conditions for the Nazis to come to power. So that's the exact same role. We were just talking about how we're in a revolutionary situation today, and DSA is playing a very similar role.
Look, I mean, Eddie's 1,000% correct here. In Marxism, we have a phrase, the dialectic of universal and particular, right? So in formal logic, you think, oh, a particular thing is something that isn't universal and vice versa. But for Marxism, in dealing in contradictions, it's always both at the same time, right? Something is universal because it proves itself as universal through many different particular forms. So when you see our form of left wing rising now in the mid 2020s, it's got different characteristics, right? We are communists rather than French Republicans, that kind of thing. But I'm noticing that we're seeing this like really because of the era and the revolutionary era we're in. I think we're seeing almost a convergence of these social fascists and the outright fascists. Like, look at like the people that are going crazy against the American Communist Party, right? It's groypers and DSA / Trotskyist / every other anti-communist leftist, right? I mean, materially speaking, this is a right-wing force converging and becoming one thing right now, like in front of our eyes. They're all high-fiving each other like, yeah, we all hate the ACP. Like,
And think about it, Noah. In the historical example I gave during talking about the revolutionary struggle against the right wing, why did many people oppose the French revolutionaries? Because they was inherently distrustful of them. They viewed that they might be opportunists who want to do everything it takes to take power. So what does it say? Because I know exactly what you're talking about. Well, I see so many DSA accounts. They will fucking outright retweet a groper attacking us. Like you will see the true red-brown alliance whenever you see
right.
us go after white supremacists, and then you would see DSA nerds joining the dogpile. That's the same thing that people did in the French Revolution. This distrust. Oh yeah, I don't like the monarchy. I got some disagreement with the monarchy, but these French revolutions, they're grifters. Like this is the mentality they have, right, Noah?
Napoleon's the lesser evil. Yo, look. I'll be quick because I know you want to move on. Look at their influencers, right? The guy who embodies the DSA, pan left, whatever you want to call it, they're really these right wingers, is Hassan Piker, right? This guy, this bourgeois guy who's never worked a day in his effing life, by the way, it just gets hosed down by mainstream media. He's working with CNN. He's in GQ, all this stuff. And how does that mainstream media treat genuine revolutionaries? It either attacks them or ignores them, right? And we've gotten both treatments. So you have to look at the actual class character of the forces involved. All these like anti-communist leftists are the fading middle class, and they're being lumpenized. That middle class is being taken away from them. And who was Napoleon's bread and butter? Who were his forces? The lumpen, the people losing their class status, right? Not the working class, not the poor, the lumpen, the criminals that lost it all.
We're going to get to Hassan Piker here very soon. So keep if you have any thoughts, hold it for just 1 second, because I'm going to show you guys why there's a very coordinated effort to try to save this dying Democratic Party. And Hassan Piker plays a very big part of this. But I'm going to start here because we covered first. Hold that thought because we're going to get to him during this presentation. Now, this is the reason why, and I've been very open about my thought process over the last year, because I'm always in the lab cooking. I'm always brainstorming. This is what I do. Like, how can we take advantage of this momentum? I was thinking like whether Trump won last election, if Kamala won, I'll be like, all right, how can we take advantage of this? Like that's why I'm always thinking that. Right now, and I've been covering this issue of Israel, Gaza, the Palestinian struggle ever since my time as a citizen journalist. I would say that was one of the things that even launched me to do this. It was one of the topics you would see me talk about years and years and years ago. So as someone who's been covering this for years, even way before October 7th, to see polls like this is wild, man. 32% in the United States backs Israel action in Gaza, a new low. Now, we explained many times before, it doesn't matter what you ask Americans. You can ask Americans, do you approve of kittens? And there would be 30% that would say, fuck kittens. That's the reality. Like, the amount of Americans who support Medicare for all, single-payer healthcare, is around 65 to 30%. Then 5% unsure. There's always these 30% reactionary forces that must be defeated. You can't be upset over that. You just know that these numbers have to be defeated. So when I see 30% is supporting of Israel genocide, this is a historic opportunity. There's other coverage. There's so many different polls that show this. Majority of Americans disapprove of U.S.-Israel military alliance. You guys realize what that says? This poll in particular is not even asking about the war in Gaza. They're like, hey man, what about our alliance with Israel? And 60% of Americans like, the fuck did that to do with me? So do you guys see this amazing opportunity that RBN, the ACP, Worker Strike Back, and all the anti-Zionist organizations that I've talked to, and many, many more out there, we in a unique position. This is why it's strange to me that there's so many people on the left who spend their time, oh man, I want to tear down the ACP. I want to tear down RBN. I want to tear down this person who works outside of duopoly, who is building their own anti-Zionist party, instead of taking advantage of this crazy moment. Like, guys, I see accounts that they spend their entire time attacking the ACP instead of taking advantage of this moment of rising anti-Zionism in the American people. Is there any reaction to these polls? Have you guys seen the same thing among people your age, around people you're around? Because I know people in my life who are apolitical as fuck. My family is famously apolitical. I tell you guys this all the time. Bro, there's not a single motherfucker in my family who fucks with Israel now. And I love it, bro. This shit's great. They see my hotspot videos too. I'm not gonna lie, I have a little bit of influence on them now, which is weird because I never did. But now they see how hard I go on Israel. I promise God, there's not a single motherfucker. Even my mom, my famously apolitical mom, was like, nigga, I don't like this Israel. They gone too far. But Eddie, I thought you were on mute. You feel free. We pretty much talking about what do you guys see the same thing on the ground? Because this is just data. Do you guys see the same thing on the ground, Eddie?
Absolutely. I see it, especially with the younger generations, but even the older generations are turning against Israel, like my parents as well. I remember when October 7th happened, I asked my parents if they had seen it, and my mom was like, oh yeah, it looks like there's a lot of violence on both sides. And I sent her about a whole novel after that, but then they watched a movie on it, they looked into it, and now they're completely anti-Israel. They realize it's an artificially constructed, genocidal ethno-state on top of Arab land. And since October 7th, their position has completely changed from, and my mom was raised, in the evangelical Christian church at a time when a bunch of Zionist money was being pumped into it. And my grandfather was a pastor, and she was taught, always support Israel, unconditionally support Israel. But after looking at the facts and after seeing with her eyes what they're doing to children and women and Christians and Muslims alike, she's completely turned against them. And the younger generation even more so. They're, and with the younger ones, it's a matter of, can we get them to turn to communism, or are they going to turn to fascism, JQ bullshit? But everybody's turning against Israel. It's like, they say the one crime that society will punish pretty much every time is when you harm children. If you harm children, when you go to prison, they're going to beat the shit out of you. Or even if you get let off, the community is going to find you and beat the shit out of you and maybe kill you. And everybody's seeing Israel massacre children in front of their parents, and there's a certain human element to that people seem to not be able to look away from. And it's pushing them in a positive political direction in most ways.
You have Benjamin Netanyahu, who he recently said how we have to censor the internet. He was calling for mass censorship because of the blood libel spread against the Jews. You guys know how much in shambles they have to be to outwardly expose themselves like that. But no, I saw you on mute. Do you want to chime in?
I just prefer to stay unmuted. I can, but I feel like Carlos has been real quiet.
Carlos, you have anything you want to add before I move on?
Well, I mean, the main thing is that I want to remind people of something that Lenin always said, which is that revolution is a civil war. So don't be afraid of the fact that there's still 30% of people that are in that mindset. That's probably as good as it's going to get. Maybe it's going to get a little bit better. But revolution is a civil war, and that's why concepts like the dictatorship of the proletariat are necessary, because the day after the revolution, you're still going to have a whole lot of people that are going to be in the class that's going to be privileged by the revolution, but who have these false ideas that they have inherited from the old order that identify them with their exploiters. This sort of that syndrome where you fall in love with your kidnapper. Stockholm syndrome, right? They have Stockholm syndrome for the capitalist class. And that's at 30%. And you need a dictatorship of the proletariat, because it's not just going to be the capitalists, a very small part of society that tries to overthrow the revolution that you've had, but it's going to be their goons, the people that accepted their ideas and that still do in the aftermath of the revolution. And they're going to work with any power they can that's friendly to the old order internationally. So if in the US, something as that's been as much of a red line for the political class as Zionism is getting pulled that low in terms of favorability, that's, I think, an unprecedented situation. This is something we've been talking about for some years. The crisis of legitimacy that we have in the US, the lack of faith in institutions, in the political class, and even the system as a whole, which takes many forms. It takes one form for the MAGA person that doesn't believe in the deep state, that wants to squash it, that wants to do all of this. It takes another form in some forms of vague leftists that are separated from the DSA and stuff like that. It takes a form in apolitical people. There's a whole chunk of America, I think it's the largest voting bloc, which literally just doesn't vote. That's a deep commitment to having a non-commitment to the system, right? That's a political position as well. That's saying, why would I even participate if my position cannot have any weight in any of these affairs? So it's an unprecedented degree of a crisis of legitimacy that we have, a crisis of authority. And I think perhaps the nail that breaks the camel's back is going to be this issue with Zionism that has been the untouchable point by the political class. And now people are coming around, because how couldn't you come around? You have cell phones on your pockets and you're seeing a whole genocide live stream for 2.5 years. You know, maybe in the first 6 months you don't see shit. Maybe in the first 6 months you accept the Piers Morgan sort of bullshit narrative that the media feeds you. But at some point, you've seen enough dead and dismembered babies to say, all right, this is bullshit. Maybe I'm being fucking lied to by these people. So, yeah, I think that only shows the tremendous opportunity that we have now to change society. And the biggest enemies that we have are those people that want to divide us at a time when the conditions are more ripe than ever for us to be united across the primary contradictions, the issues of war, empire, poverty, the contradictions that, you know, when MLK started focusing in on them, war, poverty, and racism, that's when he got shot. Those are still, I think, the contradictions of our day, especially war and poverty. And we can unite a whole host of different Americans from different backgrounds that think a million different things on secondary and tertiary issues around these areas.
Look, I'll just be quick, because you asked for examples. I'm a union guy. I'm a tradesman, right? I'm on construction sites all day, every day. And I think it gives me a good, like, sort of look at the American working class as I'm working. And I was with a few of my union brothers last week, and we're building this school. And we're in one of the rooms and we're working. And guy starts talking about, you know, like the most recent video he saw of Zionists murdering children and blah, blah, blah. And an older guy who was actually a flooring guy, like, chimes in from outside, like some BS Zionist propaganda, right? And dude just straight up, like, this isn't urging from me or nothing, went out, closed the door. He was like, sorry, no Zion Nazis allowed in here. Just close the door on like, that's how it is. Like, it's loud and proud now. Like, it's become the mainstream to be anti-Zionist.
Yeah, and despite this, and this is where the fantastic opportunity for us comes from, Democrats are still doubling down on their Zionism. And let's get back to this, because that was a great intro conversation. So I'm going to get through just a little bit of receipts here. Feel free to chime in if you guys have any thoughts. Democrats vote down resolution calling for arms embargo on Israel, recognizing a Palestinian state. So they had two resolutions, and this is their Zionist controlled DNC chair. And he put up a meek resolution that said, hey, man, I don't think we should have an arms embargo on Israel. I think we should call for a ceasefire instead. You should get slapped right in the goddamn face. What is the point of advocating for a ceasefire while you're still sending weapons to Israel? What reason would they have to accept said ceasefire? So it was obviously a bullshit resolution that meant to pull the pro-Palestinian progressive Democrats back on the pro-genocide side. And obviously the progressives who still are attached to the Democratic Party, they are failing to shift this party to the left on this issue. But you want to know what's funny is that they had these two resolutions that were meant to, they're like, all right, let's see which one gets the most vote. So after they defeated the resolution that called for an arms embargo on Israel, Ken Martin then pulled his resolution that called for a ceasefire afterwards. He like, oh well. He like, that didn't pass. Let's spend some more time and let's think about how we're gonna come together as a party to figure out this issue. Here it is. However, after the more hardline resolution was voted down, remember, this is the resolution that was about ending the arms to Israel, the arms embargo. So after that was voted down, Martin announced that he was withdrawing his resolution. So you guys see what they did? In the beginning, they were like, hey guys, we all want to do something about this Israel issue. I think you're a little bit too extreme. So yeah, you call for an arms embargo. I'm calling for a ceasefire. So then they started arms embargo. He's like, nope, psych. No more ceasefire resolution. So fam, if you are still supporting a Democratic Party that is playing with your face just like this, you are utterly wasting the time of the working class, which is why I despise people like Hassan Piker and DSA who tried to bring people back into this party. So here's Richie Torres. Richie Torres, while he was fighting against an arms embargo, and I want you guys to respond to the story if you have any thoughts. As he was fighting against the left, as he was spreading pro-genocide propaganda, as he was calling people on the left little Hamases, like that's the kind of stuff that him and John Fetterman was doing. He literally invested.
Kind of a compliment.
Yeah, that's base as hell.
Right?
As far as I'm concerned.
I'll be a little Hamas. Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, Nick.
No, this is what we do at RBN. We have fun. This is Richie Torres investing in Lockheed Martin and Northrop and made a ton of money as he was supporting the genocide of the Palestinian people. So here's the tweet that while urging Biden to rush bombs to Israel genocide and voting for a $17 billion arms package to an apartheid state, Richie Torres also secretly bought stock in weapon giants like Lockheed, Northrop, the firm supplying Israel's genocide. The trade were nearly filed a year late, far beyond the 45-day deadline under the Stock Act. So this motherfucker was supporting genocide, and he was rushing to profit off of it. And this is not only the entirety of Congress, this is the genocidal Democratic Party apparatus. After seeing stories like this where people are becoming rich supporting genocide, you guys want to reform this party? Like, this is a story that makes me want to see the Democratic Party be utterly destroyed. You have any reaction to the story, guys?
I mean, I agree with you. It shows the corruption at the core. I mean, Richie Torres and John Fetterman, these are two people who have just sold their souls. Very likely, I've never met them, but I imagine they're very narcissistic personality types who, don't really care what anybody thinks of them. They're just chasing the money. But it's, these people are in a social class where everybody else is a wealthy elite Zionist. So they don't even realize or see the rise of anti-Zionism in America. And when they do, they just dismiss it as anti-Semitism and say that we need to combat it. And it reminds me, there's this book by Herbert Marcuse, who's one of these like fake Marxist philosophers, called One-Dimensional Man. And basically he makes the argument that there's no class struggle anymore because the working class has the same culture and consciousness as the ruling class. And when I hear that, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like what Noah was saying, people are constantly turning against Zionism at his workplace. Like I was saying, I see it in my communities all the time, but these people won't even question it. They won't even say, maybe we should push for a little bit, of an Israeli drawback here. This is really bad PR for us. They can't even do the bare minimum, because I don't think they realize how strong the opposition is among regular working class people and regular working class communities. So they're just going right along, collecting their military industrial complex and Zionist lobby paychecks and screaming about fighting anti-Semitism. And they have no idea the revolutionary movement that is brewing under the surface that's going to bust up this establishment, social and political class of clowns.
And I think, I'm sorry, Eddie. I keep interrupting tonight.
At this point, to sit there and say we need to try to move the Democratic Party left, or we need to fight in order to make the Democratic Party a progressive party, is little different than sitting there in 1940s Germany and saying, you know, we need to really get this National Socialist Workers' Party and move it a little bit to the left. What the fuck are you talking about? It's a fucking fascist party. There's nothing more fascist than a genocide. It's not only sponsoring it, it's not only giving the thumbs up for it, it's giving the weapons for it. It's helping it. It's covering for it. It's helping it internationally. It's the foundation of the genocide. It's just that Israel's the gun that's, being pulled, but the arm that's pressing the trigger is America. So,
Yep.
and the party that has led this has really been both, but the one that led it in the first 2 years after October 7th was the Democratic Party. So if you sit here and you talk either about the Democrats or the Republican or moving them to the left or something like that, of course, it's more popular with the Democrats. What the fuck are you talking about? That's like saying, let's move the Nazis left. Let's try to push Hitler left. No, it's a fascistic party. It's the cutting edge of fascism. It's the cutting edge of fascism because it supports Zionism, because it supports the fascist state of Ukraine and NATO. And you can't move that to the left because that's inherently as right-wing as you can possibly get. That is the system. That is the cutting edge of the system. You can't move the system to the left with the system.
I can't picture a more perfect face than Richie Torres for this, as he's literally investing in the bomb makers that are mass slaughtering children, right? Like, look at that face. He's oblivious, like Eddie was saying, of the social revolution brewing in the American people because of what he's doing, making millions by investing in these bomb factories. Well, they're not just factories, giant conglomerates, right? Then using our tax dollars to pay those corporations money, right? And then giving those weapons to the people slaughtering children. All of it is just sucking out our money, giving it to these scumbags and murdering kids. Now, he may not be aware of this yet, but that is a face the people are going to remember. And we're going to remember who is profiting off of this crime against humanity like we haven't seen in our lifetimes. We're going to remember all the Richie Torreses, all the Kamala Harrises, all of them. Everyone.
John Fetterman. Add Fetterman, that
John
piece of
Fetterman. Everyone who went to go kiss that stupid fucking wall and take our money and use it to slaughter children with. I think that, look, I'm going to go off on a whole big rant, but which I don't want to do. So I'll leave it with this. Zionism is the one thing right now that can unite working class Americans and is beginning to wake them up. The way Nick, specifically, you are talking about the people who want to push the Democratic Party left, and then Carlos, it's just like, I can't see them as anything else than in on it at this point. I mean, when did Hassan Piker start pushing the Democrats left? Look, they don't care how much you criticize Israel. They care that you're still voting Democrat and you're still telling your audience to vote Democrat. Oh, they're the lesser evil, guys. No, they're just evil. Sorry.
Yeah, at least Richie Torres has Zoran Mamdani that can help him rehabilitate his image. Can you guys imagine taking a photo with someone who profits off of genocide? Like, even being cordial, I wouldn't be cordial with Richie Torres. If he offered me to shake his hand, I would reject him. Like, I would not shake his hand. I would not shake a single Democrat's hand. Like, if I was ever at Washington, shit would be awkward. Like, who's this guy? I'm not shaking your fucking hand. Fuck you. I'll spit in your damn hand. And this is why it's so dangerous what these people are doing. These young people like Richie Torres, he's going to face the consequences of his vote forever. Meanwhile, he got some guy who can't even bench 135, who's here to rehabilitate his image.
That's what Washington needs, more weak PMCs, right?
There's a lot of people who've been calling this out too, because this is one of the titles, one of the headlines I put in because I thought this shit was funny. and I'm kind of pissed because you guys know how I feel about Charlemagne the God. It's like someone you hate saying something funny, and you forced to laugh. You ever been a hater and then someone say something funny, you like, oh, that shit ain't funny. Fuck you, nah, bro, this shit was funny. You guys know I hate this guy. He's a Kamala voter. He's the black guy that Democrats are comfortable with. Like, they're so comfortable with this guy, they gave him like a fucking CNN. He had like some fucking CNN, or was it I may be forgetting the exact corporate media channel, but they gave him a political talk show. He interviews all the Democrat politicians. They love this guy. But with that said, this motherfucker just boomed Hakeem Jeffries like I've never seen before.
I was having the minority speaker, Hakeem Jeffries. Because, you know, I'm a political nerd. Like, I love talking
Charlemagne
politics.
hates him.
You do?
I don't hate him. I just don't think he stands for anything.
Well,
I think that I call him Apex Shakur. Like,
well,
bro, that is an absolute banger. Apex Shakur. When I heard this, I was furious that I didn't come up with this. But let's analyze the first 15 seconds here, and I do this particularly as a black leftist. You guys see why I despise the black capitalist class? Why I despise the Breakfast Club in general? Like, I despise celebrity culture. It's one of the things that it's soul crushing to me when I see American working class people buy into this celebrity nonsense. And when you look at the black capitalist class, when you look at the black celebrity class, people like Jay-Z, they were supportive of Hillary Clinton, supportive of Kamala Harris. We have an entire generation of black celebrities who are pro-war neoliberals. The Breakfast Club is a massive cultural hit in the black community. Meanwhile, they have a guest on who's explaining how she loves Hakeem Jeffries. Charlemagne, where do you find these Negroes? I couldn't go outside and find a nigga who likes Hakeem Jeffries. Meanwhile, he has to show you, I like Hakeem Jeffries because I'm a political nerd. Fuck you. This is based on the first article I wrote, how black neoliberalism destroyed our communities. You guys don't have to touch on this if you don't want to. But black neoliberalism destroyed our communities. You have black people shaking their ass for genocide. For what? To elect a fucking cop who locked up black men?
Look,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, guys.
No, it's a sign of their class character, right?
Yeah.
These guys are PMC to their core. They're middle class. They don't. That's why she says she's a political nerd. For her, it's a hobby. It's playing a video game or watching a movie. Good way to put it. Right? It doesn't actually affect her because she's fine. She's well off. She's not like the majority of Americans who got to work for a living.
Very well said.
And the reason why it's hard to imagine where the hell Charlemagne is pulling these people from. It's because, like Noah said, it's a class thing. When you go outside, try to find a black person that thinks like that. You won't, because you're going to find regular working class black people. Most of my students are black. I can't say I have found one in all of these years of teaching that would sit there with a straight face and say, I'm a political nerd and I love Hakeem Jeffries. Where the fuck do you find these people? You find them in the cocktail parties, the high echelon parties that they all mingle in. That's why we don't find them.
Right.
This is why we created RBN. You guys realize before RBN, there was zero black left representation in the media. You know who they call when they need a black leftist? They call Brianna. Before RBN, you'll see Brianna Joy Gray. She was the only exception. You may see Nina Turner, but she's a shit lib. Like, Nina Turner is like as far fucking left you will ever find, and she's a shit lib as far as I'm concerned. So there was zero representation. Meanwhile, if you turn on CNN, you got these black Zionists in suits. That's not represented. That's why that's why we got together like, hey man, we need to create an alternative media for ourselves. Instead of being just a bitch and complaining about it, because I was being a bitch and complaining about it for a very long time. I was like, instead of just being a complainer, I'm gonna become the change I want to see. I was complaining because there was a lack of black Marxist radical voices. It was something that really bothered me. That's why I started RBN. And that's why we grew these and created these connections with many black creators as well. It's definitely a much better time than it was the bleak age of pre-2020 black, and when it comes to the black left. But when it comes to politics, these people are the mainstream. Charlemagne the God is the mainstream. Remember, he was a diehard Kamala Harris voter, and Like he will go viral every once in a while for criticizing the Democratic Party, but he will always go back to we gotta support Kamala Harris, we gotta support Democrats. But anyway, let me play the clip again from the beginning. I did interrupt it. Let's continue.
I love having the speaker, minority speaker, Hakeem Jeffries, because I'm a political nerd. Like I love talking
Charlemagne
politics.
hates him.
You do?
I don't hate him. I just don't think he stands for anything.
Well,
I think that I call him Apex Shakur. Like,
Well, definitely, we did talk about messaging, and I actually went to the.
We need to talk about messaging. So Charlemagne the God brings up a very valid critique of this person she was just glossing up. How he supports genocide. And her response to that is, yeah, he need to work on his messaging. How can you possibly message that you support bombing children? If anything, I think they're killing the game. It's like you actually think about it.
Have you ever gotten in like have you ever gotten in like a debate with somebody and they're like clearly like trying to bring up a fake criticism of their side in order to seem objective? That's what she's doing here. Right? She's like, oh, the messaging is bad.
Well, that's
like
what all the Democrats are doing now. All the Democrats are getting called out on the substance. So you see these people like James Carville, is that the guy's name, who are coming out and railing against their messaging. Our messaging has been so shit. Our marketing is so shit. And it's like cathartic for them to rant against the Democratic Party. It's like, what about the substance? That's what you're being criticized on. What about what your party actually stands for? He's not criticizing the messaging. He's criticizing the fact that they're a tool of AIPAC.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the code that Democrats have been saying. They've been driving me crazy. I've been watching a lot of their coverage of them reacting to the Democratic Party hemorrhaging votes. They lost 2 million registered Democrats. You know how cooked you are? I wouldn't, even in my days while I voted for Barack Obama, I was never a registered Democrat. There's a lot of people who vote Democrat who are not registered Democrats. There are a lot of people who vote out of their civilian duty. There are people who just vote and they had to choose the lesser two evil. There are a lot of people who do that, unfortunately. There are not a lot of diehard Democrats. If you lose 2 million people who registered as a Democrat, bro, you are cooked. And the cope that came from the Democratic Party is not because of their support of genocide. It's not because they're deeply anti-worker policies. It's not the fact they're building cop cities all over the country and creating a police state. It's not them teaming up with real estate developers and landlords that made housing unaffordable in blue cities. It's not that. It's that people don't think they're fighting Trump hard enough. I think the American people, they like us, but it's our messaging. They don't think we're fighting. No, it has nothing to do with how you fight Trump. You just suck. But let's continue your answer. This is not a long clip, but you got to see. This 40-second clip triggers me 1,000 times. I can't stand watching this show. I don't know how people watch this show, man. This show is a banger. Like they pull like 500,000 views just for clips. Like they'll upload a fucking shit post that will get 600,000 views. So guys, I'm not punching down here. This show is a fucking banger. I will never understand it. This is why black neoliberalism has rotted the minds of our community. I'm sorry, that's the reality.
I don't hate him. I just don't think he stands for anything.
Well,
I think that I call him Apex Shakur. Like,
well, definitely, we did talk about messaging, and I actually went to the Capitol and had a meeting with him, and we talked about messaging and how I was like, the frustration with the party is y'all have to get more gangster. Like, stop going by the politics of the late 2000s, in 2010, and you have to like rise to the occasion in the messaging. And he did. I saw him do more afterwards.
Hakeem is a puppet. Hakeem's not doing anything if Chuck Schumer don't tell him to do it. And it's simple as that.
Bro, there's nothing that annoys me more when this motherfucker makes me laugh, man. That shit fucking.
We gotta be more gangster. We gotta bomb them motherfucking babies. That's what we gotta do. We gotta bomb more motherfucking babies. We ain't bombing enough fucking babies. Is that what you want?
Just keep bombing the babies. Just do it with some swagger.
That's the level of analysis you get when you have zero class analysis, zero theory on your back. This is what happens when you are a millionaire celebrity. Your mom has money. Like you have no struggle. Like these black liberals are identical to white liberals. They have the same. They view themselves as like radical. They think they have this edge because they're black liberals, but they're the fucking same as Amy Klobuchar. Like, what's the difference between her policies and Amy Klobuchar? But Eddie, I give you anyone will chime in, and we're gonna get to Hassan Piker next. I know I've been saving this, bro. We have the official roast of Hassan Piker coming up. Eddie Liger, you have Anything you want to add?
I just wanted to say it's interesting that with these new forms of media that are propping up and more people are getting their news from the internet, there's also new forms of propaganda that are arising. So now Charlemagne does a show with Andrew Schulz, this comedian who's very popular with young white Americans. And it's like a political show, right? And they're both pushing neoliberalism together. And the ruling class is desperately trying to maintain control of the narrative via the internet and these new forms of technology that are emerging. And it reminds me what they do with the Black community is similar to what they do with the Cuban American community, like funding athletes to support regime change in Cuba and post stuff on their Instagram and funding rappers to do it. They try to, sink their claws into each and every community, which is why it's important to have outlets like RBN that give a real sovereign voice to the real left in these different communities across America.